Welcome everybody. This is Around the Aether Cooler with the Aether Hub crew. Joined today, it's of course me, Seiben, and we also have Mike from Mythic Tales and Nizzahon. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Definitely. We're gonna have a nice, chill, fun conversation. Talk some Magic the Gathering. Talk some topics. Talk some controversial topics potentially, and get some opinions from some great content creators from across the community tonight. So first, let's do a quick introductions. Just give me your names, your channels, what you guys like to do for your content of choice, and a little brief introduction to your experience in Magic and the content community as a whole. So Nizzahon, why don't you go first?
Sure. Okay. Well, I am Nizzahon. My YouTube channel is called Nizzahon Magic. I primarily do limited content. I post a draft video every Monday and Thursday, and I also do a full set review every time a set comes out. But I also do Magic history. I do top 10 videos that are based on like how impactful cards have been in Magic's history. I've been playing Magic since Urza's Saga. It's pretty long. I think that's like, I don't know, the late 90s. So I've been playing it for a pretty long time. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so you are a limited master, right? I heard that you called yourself a limited master.
I don't know what, really?
Yeah, man, it's all over the interwebs.
That's a surprise to me because I definitely wouldn't call myself a master, but I do enjoy limited a lot. I play it a lot, and I have a fair amount of experience doing it, but I am definitely a limited amateur, not like a professional player or anything.
Well, luckily that limited knowledge is going to come in handy tonight because we're gonna bring up a few topics involving limited play. So definitely looking forward to getting your opinion on that. But Mike, why don't you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Hey guys, I'm Mike from Mythic Tales. This is my channel. I do animations of Magic cards. So I met Seiben through doing my animations. He noticed my channel and thought it'd be cool to work together because he's big on lore and the art kind of ties into the lore pretty well. So we started working together once I did his Dominaria end screen with the key art from Dominaria, and then from there we just started to work on some other projects. So it's been really fun, and at this point my channel's not very big on my own, but you'll see a lot of my work coming up here on the Aether Hub, so stay tuned to that.
Yeah, guys, it is like it's just a basic love story with me and Mike. He did some work for me, and I've been exploiting his talent ever since. It's the American dream.
Exactly.
Oh, I guess I should give a little bit of my Magic history too. So
yeah.
I grew up, or part of the time I grew up in Seattle because my dad was in the Navy, and he was actually around for like when they were, putting out like the first runs of Magic product and stuff, and he got into it. And, he had all of his old cards when I was growing up. So I used to sit there, looking at all the art on the cards and pretending that I knew how to play. And then I played like a little bit in middle school. I played Mirrodin, Kamigawa just a little bit, but then I kind of fell out of it for later high school and college, and then after college, when I actually had some money finally, I started playing Hearthstone, and then I wanted the more stronger drugs, so I was like, oh yeah, Magic's kind of great. So I started playing Magic again at a local store, and since then I've been a bit of a standard spike. Go to GPs on occasion, and pretty recently I actually played an RPTQ, so it's been pretty fun. Okay, so at this point the recording got a little messed up, so you'll notice a pretty big dip in audio quality, but rest assured, figured out the problem, and next time you'll get much better quality throughout the entire episode. But for this one, we're going to be switching over to the Discord audio. Just wanted to let everybody know that's why all of a sudden you're going to hear background music, and everything's going to be a little bit more compressed. So no worries, next time will be better, and if you can make it through the end of this, thank you very much for listening.
Guys, it's a work in progress, okay? Anyway, just quick recap on me. You guys probably know who I am. I'm Seiben. I started the Aether Hub like 6 years ago, back when it was Seiben lore, and then it went through about a dozen or so different name changes, brand changes, because I just don't know what to do with my life. So really interested in the lore of Magic the Gathering. Love it. Love the whole flavor of Vorthos. Okay. Everything about it. Okay. And just make videos on that. Hopefully do some arena stuff now that that's coming out. But yeah, you guys basically probably know everything about the channel, what it stands for. So let's not harp on that and kind of get into our first topic. So you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. So first topic of discussion tonight is buy a box promos. So we know Magic 19 is right around the corner. We're already getting spoilers for it. We're gonna get more as GP Vegas comes out and comes out in full swing. We're gonna get a bunch of new spoilers. But one thing we do know is that they're gonna continue the buy a box promos that they started in Dominaria. They cited that it's been a huge success in driving purchases for boxes in stores, and that's the reason why they're continuing this practice. And in M19, they've released that exclusive promotional card in the form of Nexus of Fate. So first, let's just discuss the card itself and just get our takes on the card. Since it is an exclusive buy a box promo, you can't get it in the packs itself, but it is legal in the standard format that it's going to be released in. So it's going to have a little controversy around it. So first, let's start with you, Mike. Why don't you give us your takes on the card? It's Nexus of Fate. It's a instant blue spell for 7 mana, 5 generic, and 2 blue. Take an extra turn after this one. If Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Nexus of Fate and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So what do you think?
Well, to start with, I think it's playable in standard. I've seen a lot of arguments, either way. Some people saying it's unplayable, but others saying it's pretty broken. I lean a little more towards the broken side, but at the same time, I'm not like a pro or anything. I don't know if I can actually break it in the deck, but I was talking to you about it, and after playing in the RPTQ, I think in blue-white control, this card could be pretty busted, especially with Teferi in the format. In Commander, obviously, this is a really fun card. It definitely screams Commander card with a 7 casting cost, but with the current state of Standard and where removal's at right now, with how strong control decks are, I think it's actually fairly playable, especially because it can draw out games in a pretty busted way where, you get... Because blue-white control can extend the game all the way down to the point that you're almost decking yourself and your opponent, but this prevents you from getting decked because it always gets shuffled into your library, so you can just sit there and have infinite turns at the end of the game, which seems pretty crazy. Like, even if it's a one-of copy in your deck, like, it's fine to put it as a one-of, because if the game just draws out long enough that you're both drawing your decks out, then suddenly your opponent is inevitably going to get milled even if you drew more cards, because you're just sitting there taking turn, take a turn, take a turn. Oh, I guess actually that just leaves. It's a very weird card, like, especially when you're down to just this card in your deck, because you just continue to cast it infinitely, but then the game can't end, so you're forced to... I don't know, I'd have to see some gather rulings on this, but
yeah.
So that's what my take on the card itself. Probably not playable in Modern, because there's much better cards in taking turns and decks like that are much lower mana cost. They're more efficient.
Definitely. So I'm not going to really spend much time discussing this card myself personally. I don't like playing blue. I don't like playing control, so I hate this card. I would be very upset if someone played it against me, and that's pretty much it. But I am interested in hearing your take on this, Nizzahon. Now, me being a limited expert, unlike yourself, since you claim to not be one, this card is obviously...
I mean, I'm probably more of an expert than you, but...
Oh, shade. Though obviously this is a first pickable card, right? Nizzahon, it's got to be, right?
Well, it's not going to be in packs at all, so we don't really have to
Oh my god, you got me.
So you're definitely not a limited expert. But, even though I'm not... I used to play Constructed, but I basically only play Limited, but I do have an opinion about the card and about buy a box promos in general.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's possible that this sees play in Constructed. I definitely am not in the party. I don't think it's going to be broken, like Mike thinks it might be. I mean, it would definitely be interesting in blue-white control, potentially, but it's still a 7 mana card to take an extra turn, which, sure, you can get there, but look at Standard right now. How often are you going to get to turn 7 to cast Nexus of Fate in this Standard format?
It depends on the matchup.
I mean, it could happen, but I think it's possible. I don't think it's like completely unlikely to see playing Constructed like the last buy a box promo we saw basically was. but I don't think it's super likely either. Either way, though, it is, as Mike mentioned too, it's going to be an EDH staple. I mean, and the idea of printing a card that's going to be an EDH staple at this ultra rare rarity is definitely going to be frustrating for anybody who plays EDH. It's going to be an incredibly expensive card. The buy a box promos are kind of a complicated issue in general, because I think it's great that they're finding a way to get local game stores, something that you can't get from Walmart, right? And that's what these buy a box promos are in large part. And they said, the buy a box promo, the Sun Speakers or whatever their names were from Dominaria, they said that made a big difference, and more people did buy boxes from stores because of it. And so I like that side of it, but I think they should. I don't know. This card definitely has the possibility to see playing constructed, and that's almost a little bit too much to me. Like, it's interesting. It would be interesting to see in the future whether they try to power down the cards, or maybe say that they're not going to be legal in standard, but that would probably defeat the purpose of helping people buy them. But yeah. So I mean, there are pros and cons to these buy a box promos. I don't think this card is broken. I think it could see some play though, especially as a one-of, like Mike said. But yeah.
So that's actually a great segue. Just talking about buy a box promos in general, are they a good thing? Are they a bad thing? So Nizzahon, you made some very, very good points on both sides. Just my kind of thoughts on it. You basically have to take it by a buy the card kind of situation.
Yeah.
Is the card being super exclusive to buy a box promotional, giveaways basically? Does that outweigh the good that it does in terms of promoting sales at local game stores? Obviously, with the Dominaria buy a box promo, the Sunwalker Speaker Minotaurs or something, obviously that was a good choice on their part. It was a card that just didn't see any kind of competitive constructed advantage or anything like that.
But it's a super cool EDH and that's the kind of
it's a super cool card. And it has super cool effects and everything like that. So it wasn't worthless. It wasn't like a worthless like common, for example.
Right.
Same with this card. I feel like, just personally, it's not going to have a lot of value in constructed. Like you guys said, it might see some, and I do think it's technically probably, from a constructed standard kind of viewpoint, it's probably better than the Dominaria buy a box promo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is not going to be influential enough to cause people to rage about its exclusive nature. You know what I mean? I think people are getting like a little too ahead of themselves, saying, "Oh my God, it's a mythic quality card. That's an exclusive promotional thing." I don't think it actually is.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, if you mean mythic power level, I mean,
no, I'm talking like it's at a mythic rarity is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a card by card basis. It's probably going to happen at some point that they print one of these. If this isn't it, that one of them will end up seeing play in constructed. I mean, sometimes things happen that they don't expect to happen in constructed, and that's going to be whenever it happens. If it's with this card or another one, it's going to look really bad for them because of how expensive the card's going to be, and it'll be interesting to see how Wizards decides to respond to that, whether it's by, I don't know, having it be a Friday Night Magic promo or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting point that I actually didn't consider, like not looking at it just in the concept of in the viewpoint of just like right now in this instant with M19, but towards the future, when they do actually make a gaff and they print a card that's super playable in standard, and what they do in that situation and how bad it would look. So, I mean, in looking at that in that kind of angle, I can see where it could be a huge issue.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think it's probably a hard thing to design, because they have to design a card that's really cool, makes people want to buy a box because that's the only way you can get it. But at the same time, it can't be too powerful or people will really be upset, because it's going to be an incredibly expensive card, like more expensive. Like if this became a staple in standard, it would be one of the most expensive standard cards ever, probably, because of how few of them will exist. But but it has to be a card that people think is cool. And I think they did a good job with the first one, making it a card that people really liked for EDH. but that was, not really relevant for constructed.
Yeah.
Competitive constructed, I guess. But this time, I mean, they're definitely closer to making a mistake, I'm willing to say, at least.
Yeah, for sure. But I think if they keep looking at it and trying to find like EDH kind of cards to print, I think they can always stay in that safe space, that safe like area that they're not going to trip on too many toes.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. But Mike, quick, I just want to get your opinion on buy a box promos in general. Like, do you think they're good or bad? Like, weigh the pros and cons and tell us what you think.
So I've seen arguments on both sides. Evan Irwin, owner of Cool Stuff, or part owner of Cool Stuff Inc., who has both physical stores and online stores, said the buy a box promo is incredible for them. Like, they saw, way more pre-orders than they normally would. He said it could be in part because Dominaria was just amazing. Was for sure
true.
But he did say that circumstantial evidence seems to point to the fact that these are pretty successful, and I'm always an advocate for the local game store. That's how I got back into playing, because I had a friendly local game store where the shop owner was great and helped onboard me back into the game. So I'm always going to be in their corner, and if this is good for them, I'm fine with that. But like, this one in particular does worry me just a little bit. I think right now it might not make a splash, but come rotation, if there's not a similar, because currently in standard there's commit to memory, which does kind of a similar thing where you cast memory and it basically restarts the game. And this is kind of similar in that it can just drag games out. And after playing so many rounds where in the mirror match we just went to time in the first game, like, kid you not, like, we weren't slow playing, it was just the matches get that grindy, and this is a super grindy card, which is feel bad. And again, standard is kind of expensive right now, and this would certainly up the price if it did play, so that worries me. I guess if I had to like take a side on it, I'm for them, but I really think they need to be super careful with what they print. Because again, if it's going to benefit local game stores, I'm all for it. But if it goes out of whack even once, like, that's just going to damage, consumer confidence quite a bit, and just make a bunch of collectors really happy because they're going to buy them all up and then put them back out at, super inflated prices. So
the cost of a box.
Actually, I think the Fire Song and Sunspeaker are already pretty costly. I know they're not nearly as costly as other cards, but it's one of those things we just got to kind of wait and see. Hope that they don't royally screw this up, because it could be pretty nasty if things go wrong. Oh, I take my words back there. It's Fire Song and Sunspeaker is only $5 right now, so
there you go.
Yeah. So I think in conclusion, just about this topic before we move on to the next, I think we can all agree that anything that helps drive sales at local game stores is definitely a positive thing. They've only done it once so far with Dominaria. They saw an increase in purchases with that. They need more data. They need to do this. They need to just see where it goes and see how it actually impacts sales from a set-to-set basis. If it's the buy a box promos, then keep at it. But we're obviously all cautious that they make sure they do a lot of testing behind the cards and make sure they don't make a mistake, because it just takes one mistake before it just ends the whole program.
Yeah, people are very vocal when they're upset in our community, and they would know.
Exactly. Yes, one mistake and you're gone. It's gone. So definitely a controversial topic. Hopefully they don't make any mistakes with it. They have a good track record of just keeping things on the straight and narrow, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, they've made some individual card mistakes as of late, but they've known when. Go ahead. I was just saying they've known when to ban them too, though. So.
I was just about to say they're getting a little bit more lenient with that ban hammer, though.
Yeah.
So
and I usually try to be pretty moderate with that kind of stuff. But I see people fly off the handle all the time, the time on Twitter, saying that they know better and stuff. And come on, guys, like, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. They're not idiots. Like, they know what they're doing for the most part, and
Yeah.
it just ticks me off when you see people like Rudy or whoever out there like saying that they're a bunch of idiots and they don't know what they're doing and stuff. And it's like they've been a company for 25 years doing this stuff.
Those
And
sorts of
it's changed hands and stuff, but like I always just urge people like, use some common sense here. They have way more resources than you. Like they know what's going on. Like they might make the occasional screw up, but sorry, a little soapbox there, but just annoys me no end when people like just pound this drum of like, Wizards is dumb, and it's like they're not dumb. They're all very, very smart people. They know pretty well what they're doing.
Agreed.
Yep. So, with that, let's move on to a less controversial topic. But I mean, some people can find some controversy in it. But let's talk Battlebond for a second. So, obviously, a supplemental set to the core sets that are going on in Magic the Gathering. High emphasis on two-headed giant play. It's been out for what? A week? Now?
Maybe a couple.
It's officially been out for a week, but they did do a pre-release 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so we've had... No, you're fine. So we've had about a week with it. I'm going to try to get you guys' experiences with it. Do you have any kind of experience with Battlebond, and what are your actual thoughts on the set itself as a supplemental set?
Who do you want to go first?
You know what? Nizzahon, you spoke up first. You get to
go. Okay. Well, you would think as someone who loves Limited that I would love these sets that they're calling now the draft innovation sets, the conspiracies and all of that. But I think I have what is, I think, a somewhat unpopular opinion in that I would rather just do a normal draft. Like maybe I just am so used to doing drafts because I draft all the time, the normal kind of draft. I'd rather just do a regular draft, not a draft with like a partner where we're doing like two-headed giant draft. I do think the idea is cool. I think it's an idea for some people that is probably really fun. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be printing things like this. I'm just saying it doesn't appeal to me. I would rather just keep playing Dominaria Limited right now than basically anything else, especially because this format's so good. If I were really tired of Dominaria at this point, I might be a little more likely to play Battlebond. But as much fun as Dominaria Limited is, I'm probably not going to play it at all. So
yeah. So, Mike, what about you? Have you had any experience with Battlebond, or do you have any thoughts about it?
I have not. We've been, super busy getting content out, so I haven't had time to go to the shop to play much.
Dude, believe me, I know.
From a surface level, though, I definitely appreciate it. Like, I think it's neat. I played the other draft innovation sets, like talking about like conspiracy and stuff. I did enjoy those, but like for one playthrough, like that's it.
Yeah. I
just really hope that they're doing a print run that matches that, because I feel like the enthusiasm really dies down after like one round with these less competitive, more just for fun sets. Like, I do appreciate that they're trying to do some good reprints like that. It was always a great move in my opinion, because this game is just too expensive. Like. The fact that some cards can just almost cost as much as a box is a little insane to me, and like it's great to see like doubling season get reprinted and things like that. So I'm sure it made EDH players very happy. That's unfortunately a little bit of a gap we have on this show, I think, big into EDH. But
I was once, so but yeah, not so much anymore. But yeah, that is a card. A lot of people, when they heard going back to Ravnica, that was like one of the first cards you heard people say they hope to see get reprinted, and they got reprinted in Battlebond, so that's good. And maybe it'll get reprinted in Ravnica too. Who knows?
Maybe. So in terms of like my experience with it, like I've had very limited experience with it. In fact, I have a box coming of Battlebond, so maybe I can play that with a few friends and get a real feel for it. But yeah, surface level kind of thoughts. I've never played Two-Headed Giant. I'm not personally interested in Two-Headed Giant. I'm kind of a solo Magic player. I kind of just want to sit down, don't make eye contact with my opponent, and just like play meekly, be like, okay, your turn.
Just playing Magic Online, man.
If that's I'm getting more and more into Arena, so it might not be Magic Online, but I'm taking a step in the right direction to complete isolation. But I just find these supplemental sets that are meant to be basically limited kind of format sets. They're just messy to me. They always come out, especially what was the last unset that came out? I had a real hard time navigating the mechanics, and I don't know if that's something else that other people experienced. But I feel like I would have a similar kind of issue with Battlebond, although I haven't played it yet. Just how some things would work, at least in a two-headed giant format. I've never played it before, so I'm super unfamiliar, and I feel like they were trying to get people to try two-headed giant for the first time with Battlebond, since it was kind of emphasized. You know what I mean? And I just don't know if people are gonna, get into it as quickly as some more experienced two-headed giant players, and there could be that disconnect there. But outside of that, when I just look at the set in general, I like supplement sets in general are just weird to me. Since I'm a Vorthos kind of lore and story and aesthetic of stuff, whenever they release supplemental sets, I always think there's going to be like this great pool of information that we're going to get on this super unique world,
Yeah.
And they never ever provide it.
It's just generic fantasy land usually.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the world of Battlebond. I don't even remember the plane's name. It's just, in one air, out the other. They have a big coliseum and they do partner competitions for funsies.
Flavor.
That's the flavor and
hitting the two-headed giant flavor on the head.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't blame them, obviously. Like, they're trying to focus on the core story and everything. When they come up with these supplemental sets, they're not going to spend a lot of time and resources world building and Battlebond, you know what I mean? So I don't blame them, but as someone who's looking for that kind of thing and always getting disappointed in the supplemental sets, whenever they're announced, I'm just kind of like, whatever, next,
I definitely feel you there. Somebody that's into the art, I always welcome more art, and like I said, the reprints are always great. With Unstable, Unstable is the recent unset. The only thing that we really got was the borderless full art lands, and not a huge fan. Like, I love John Avon's art, and the unglued land are my favorite lands in the game. I know it's a little cliched, everybody loves those.
Yeah,
I think they did a bit better job with those. A lot of people love the unstable land. That was, a cool little added bonus. I do like taking the game a little less seriously sometimes, but again, it has a bit of a spike. Like, I can't bring myself to play those sets because I feel like I'm just wasting EV when I could be, playing the most recent, or whatever the current expansion set is. Like Nizzahon was saying, like, I'd rather be doing Dominaria right now than pretty much anything else.
Yeah,
and none of them are playable in standard, which kind of sucks for me because again, I'm playing standard for the most part, or I'm doing the current standard set draft. So
right,
I think more sets, great for everybody. But that was going to bring me to my point that I missed with the oh no, I guess we're still talking about Battlebond. It felt like Dominaria just got rushed out the door, like the way that they did the hype season.
Right.
Because we went right into Battlebond like a month and a half, or I guess it was.
That's just how it's been the last several years in general. Like,
exactly,
there's so many products every year. I do think there's a certain amount of product fatigue. Where like Seiben is saying, like, I see this draft innovation set, I sort of look into it to see if it's something I want to do, but then I just sort of never look at it again, really, because there's so much else going on. I mean, there's also the signature spellbook Jace thing that comes out tomorrow. I mean, on top of everything else that's going on, like, that's about
I didn't even know that. Like,
yeah.
I heard it was when it was announced, but I had no idea it was being released tomorrow.
It's being released tomorrow.
Oh my god!
I actually really like those sets because
I do too.
No, those are nice. Yeah, because they're not.
But I'm just saying, there's so many products a year these days, and
oh yeah,
it's kind of crazy sometimes. Yeah. Like, there's just so much.
Yeah, and sorry, real quick. Yeah, so in closing my thoughts on Battlebond, it's unfortunate that it was released with Dominaria being so popular. Like, I can see a lot of people doing maybe a draft of Battlebond, and I don't believe many stores will probably like continue it. I don't think the popularity is there. But I'm not too 100% sure, so don't hold me to that. But I just feel like Dominaria is just so popular right now that people's attention are not going to be drawn to Battlebond for very long.
Mine's not.
Yes, it's just something that like it catches your eye for a second, and then you go immediately back to what you know and love. You know what's giving you the most enjoyment, which is to a lot of people is going to be Dominaria. So it might not be the environment. I'm not going to say Battlebond's a bad set. I'm just saying they released it in an environment that doesn't give it the best chance of survival.
Yeah, definitely. And felt rushed, you know, like Dominaria was like the best set that we've had in a long time. Like I know my Magic history, but you know, there's a lot of old pros, you know, hanging around the shop, and you know, a lot of them were just gushing about Dominaria, and then here we are getting rushed into Battlebond with the hype cycle, and then now we're on M19. You know, not even like 2 weeks later. So it just felt like they pushed it out the door so quick. It honestly kind of felt the same way about the store. You know, if you want to. Yeah. Oh, sorry, so, that's not next on the list.
Okay. Well, actually, like, I do want to talk about M19, actually, before we move on to just doing a quick general, like, Dominaria wrap-up, since we're already talking about M19, even though Dominaria is still young. It's kind of weird that we're kind of discussing it in this kind of flow, but here we are. M19's knocking on the door, so we can wrap up our feelings on Dominaria, I guess. But let's talk about M19 real quick. So we do have a sizable pool to kind of look at card wise for spoils, and I kind of wanted to just gauge your guys' opinion you've seen from Core 19 so far, and your opinions on core sets in general, and what they mean for you as a Magic player. Mike, why don't you go first?
Well, so far I'm liking, you know, quite a bit of what I've seen. It looks like the removal's really good, which is good for limited. Always nice to have lots of, you know, lower rarity removal that can just even out games a little bit. Like if the removal's bad, usually the set's bad. It seems to be the one of the hard and fast
See Ixalan.
Yeah. And Amonkhet, you know, where aggro is just king. You know, you couldn't do anything to remove those, you know, early drop creatures. So, good to see that so far. I really like that, you know, they're printing some pretty powerful creatures like Mentor of the Meek just came up recently. That seems like a pretty cool, powerful card to build around, and that Zombie Lord reprint.
Yeah, it's a reprint. I was just to say that Mentor of the Meek is a reprint. It's to include in general.
Was that good? In the past? I don't know enough about some of the older sets, but I gotta imagine.
I mean, it's a hard build around for limited, but it is a card people. I don't think it's ever really done much in constructed, but it is a card that people enjoy.
That was original Innistrad?
I think so.
Yeah. I believe it was somewhere in at least the original Innistrad block. Yeah. If I recall correctly.
And it looks like they're printing, like we talked about in our video yesterday, the Infernal Judgment. It looks like a good safety valve card. You know, that's always good to see them doing that in the core sets, because that was always one of the purposes of core sets, was to put out cards that could guard against, like, you know, unintended consequences of design. You like the Eldrazi.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the Eldrazi did not. Were not intended to make such a huge splash, but yeah, they wrecked Modern for, you know, like a year or so during the Eldrazi winter, and seems like they printed this card a little too late, but it would have been great, you know, because it's basically.
Well, the Eldrazi is still a good deck in Legacy and Vintage right now. That's how strong it is. So I imagine they printed it sort of as a sideboard card for that in mind. That's what I would guess. Because you're right. In constructed, in standard and modern, it doesn't do a whole lot right now.
Yeah, but seeing cards like Murder, you know, and Gravedigger, always a, you know, incredible limited card.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
seems like it's going to be a really good draft set. Has me excited.
I didn't realize until just now that they moved Gravedigger up to uncommon. I wanted to draft like 4 of them. Come on.
Oh, I thought he was uncommon in Eldritch Moon.
I think he was, but
He bounces from rarities.
way back in other core sets, he's been common before, and then he's always like the best black common when he's at common. It's sort of like
for sure.
So, or he's up there anyway.
So, I mean, Nizzahon, that's the perfect segue to you. What are your opinions on what you've seen out of M19? Of course, we don't have the full list yet, so it's kind of hard to judge, but I mean, we do have a little taste, so what do you think?
I think it looks good. I mean, I like core sets can be nice. They, after you've been dealing with all of this incredibly detailed synergy and specific plane, and you've been drafting that set for like 50 times or whatever over the course of it being out, sometimes it's nice to just go to sort of a weird neutral ground, which is kind of what core sets are. It's like there's a bunch of planes at once, for one thing, so flavor wise there's a bunch of planes at once. But it's also a lot simpler. There aren't going to be as extreme of synergies. I mean, this is intended to sort of be an on-ramp. Core sets are on-ramps for new players. This is the time for, if you want to learn to play limited, if you've never played it before, this is one of the best places to do it, most likely, because it's not going to have crazy synergistic 2-color combinations. It's going to be a pretty typical limited set where removal's good, efficient creatures are good. Things you would think are good. So you're not going to get punished for, not knowing that you should be taking the Saproling Lord, pack 1, pick 1, because that deck can be ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's nice. I think they've done a good job of, I think it's interesting Llanowar Elves is in, it wasn't too long ago before Dominaria when they were saying, we're never printing a 1-mana elf again in Standard, and then they printed one in Dominaria, and now they've also printed one here, so it's going to be in Standard even longer. And when you put it in a core set, it's almost like a straight-up stamp of approval. Like, this is now what you should expect for Standard is 1-mana elf. So I think that's interesting.
It kind of leaves the mark as like, hey, this is, it's standard. It is a standard card, and it can be reprinted in different fashions in other sets moving forward. Is kind of what they're saying, right?
Right. I mean, that's how I see it. They may change their mind again. They may just decide this is too much. They don't want Llanowar Elves anymore. It wouldn't be the first time they've changed their mind really quickly, but it's going to be in Standard for a while either way.
Absolutely. And under that logic, hey, Colossal Dreadmaw is going to stick with us till the end of time. It's going to be printed in every set.
Yeah, they totally did that to troll us. Like, they could have printed any 6-mana trample from like Magic's history, and they're like, you know what? Let's just do the Dreadmaw because people think it's so hilarious that it keeps getting reprinted.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a nice draft common. You'll play one of them in a lot of green decks, and he'll be perfectly fine. One thing that I kind of don't like that I saw in this set, and it's not really like a real criticism, it's just disappointing to me, is even Wind Mage.
Mm-hmm.
It does not actually have prowess. It has pseudo prowess.
Yeah, we discussed that in the last video.
Oh, okay. Well,
but no, seriously, what are your thoughts on it though?
Well, I wasn't that concerned about it until I saw that Mark Rosewater said prowess doesn't look good going forward. Like, I think that they made it an evergreen keyword ability not that long ago. I think they're going to get rid of it, and I kind of understand why, because prowess it includes any sort of non-creature spell, and that doesn't feel quite as blue-red as it should, I guess. They don't want artifacts and enchantments to be triggering it. And so, I don't know if they're sort of regretting now and wishing they'd originally made prowess just instants and sorceries, because that's sort of like the classic blue-red limited deck, is blue-red instants and sorceries, basically, right? And that's probably what the archetype is going to be in this set between Aven Windmage, which we've already seen, and what's the other one? Gutter Snipe, which we've already seen as well. So we've seen... that's probably the archetype here. In core sets, a lot of times they're just going to give us the classic archetypes of those color pairs, which have pretty basic synergy. But I think it's kind of sad, I guess, because I do like prowess as a keyword ability, as an evergreen keyword ability. But it seems like, Mark Rosewater didn't say it yet, but he implied that it's going to be phased out. And I think this is a pretty good indication that it is. So.
That I actually did not know that, so thanks for bringing that up. If that is the case and they move forward with that, I would be sad to see prowess go, because like you said, I think they made prowess a keyword in Tarkir?
Well, it debuted in Tarkir. They didn't announce it as a keyword ability until probably like a evergreen keyword ability until like a year later. But if you notice, like, there hasn't been that much prowess. Like an evergreen keyword usually shows up a little more, but there's been like 1 or 2 cards with prowess in every set since then. So it's like ever since they did it, they've kind of regretted it. And now I think they're finally going to phase it out completely. And maybe they'll come up with a new keyword for whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. And that is a more blue-red ability, I think, than prowess has really turned out to be.
Well, hopefully they just call it Izzy or something.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So, quickly, just my feelings on it. I don't really have much of an opinion on the cards that have been spoiled so far, although I do have very strong opinions about Vivian Reed that don't seem to go with everyone's the popular opinion. Besides that, I just wanted to talk about core sets in general, and they're kind of like their revival, and what it kind of means for the story of the game and how they feel as like an addition to standard in the format when they release them. So I do enjoy core sets from a flavor standpoint, not so much that they cover a bunch of different planes and stuff like that. There's a lot of different styles of art, style of architecture in the cards art itself. But more so that they can have the freedom to kind of tell a story without being confined to a specific plane or something like that, like a story arc. Like, for example, 2019 is about the history of Nicol Bolas, essentially. So that would be really, really hard to do in a normal set of Magic. It would be impossible, at least from like a Vorthos standpoint. I mean, obviously you could do it. You can shoehorn it into anything, but aesthetically, it would be jarring. So I really like core sets as a tool to tell the story of maybe past historical events, kind of like Dominaria was to a degree with its sagas and stuff, but across an entire set with just a few key pieces of new art to tell that story without being confined to the current story arc that Magic is on.
Yeah, definitely. And, so far, people seem to have liked the, first story from the set, so good sign. Although, controversy aside, it seems like people enjoy hearing more about, like, the Elder Dragons and stuff, so, and like you said, they can't just do that, in your normal theme set where they're on a plane, they gotta focus on the plane, it's gotta be there. So,
they gotta take down some threat. There's got to be a normal arcing to the story for sure. But I mean, thanks for bringing up the Elder Dragon thing. We're gonna see Elder Dragons in this set, and I'm sure the cards are gonna be, if not physically good cards, but at least they're gonna be super interesting. And
and like the Tarkir Elder Dragons were pretty. They weren't all great. Some of them were, many of them were, but they were all awesome, like cool cards. Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to be just limited bombs, but
most likely, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to
say.
It's hard to imagine an Elder Dragon not being a limited bomb, but I mean, wow.
Unless we're talking about the original cycle of them.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not going to be like that. Yeah. So these are, I mean, the Elder Dragons that are supposed to be depicted in Core 19 are supposed to be like the younger versions of, like, kind of like past depictions of Elder Dragons. So we'll see what they are. But yeah, I have a lot to look forward to in this core set. And honestly, if they keep making core sets with, engaging stories to tell, I'll keep eating them up. Honestly.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff that's already been spoiled. I think Gigantosaurus is interesting, that huge vanilla green creature.
Yeah, I still want to get your opinion on that for limited. How often do you...
I mean, if you just look at Dominaria now, the triple colored cards that are rares are pretty hard to cast as it is. So obviously a 5-color guy isn't going to be that easy to cast. Not 5 color, but 5 of the same color, unless you just end up mono green. So I would definitely, it's early, very early, but I definitely wouldn't be first picking something like Gigantosaurus, just because the probability of actually being able to play him for 5 mana, or even when you have 6 or 7 lands in play, just isn't very high. But what I think is interesting about it, especially when coupled with Dominaria's rares that have 3 colors, is, I mean, this is just sort of a prediction that I have going forward, is I wouldn't be too surprised if when we go back to Ravnica, we see a return of devotion, like devotion to guilds, because it's the kind of seeding that they would do. You know, like we had a few saprolings in Ixalan, and we had one really good pirate back in Amonkhet and things like that. And I feel like we're suddenly seeing these cards with so many colored mana symbols, and I don't think it's a coincidence. So I'm just going to throw the prediction out there that, and it would make sense flavor-wise if in Ravnica we see things like devotion to Dimir and things like that. So
yeah,
maybe that's why they're printing all these creatures that have very, very color-intensive mana costs.
Yeah, so that's a super, super interesting and compelling point that you made, Nizzahon, and something I didn't really consider. But like seriously, I'm on Mythic Spoilers front page for M19 right now, and I'm seeing like there's 4-5 creatures with double costed color costs in their casting costs. So you're right. Like just looking at that alone, I know it's not like super indicative of what's going to happen.
But that whole rare cycle in Dominaria, obviously Goblin Chain Whirler is proven to be the strongest in Standard. But that whole cycle could be good in a monocolored deck. Like they would all be playable and constructed if there was a strong monocolored shell for them, or if it's a guild type thing. And I'm guessing that's what the devotion would have to be in Ravnica, right? But yeah it just seems. It could just be a coincidence. They could be just having fun printing these things that we haven't seen for a long time. 3 colored mana creatures isn't something we've seen a lot of. And 5 colored mana is almost unheard of, I would say. So it's a dinosaur too. So maybe he'll make the dino deck work. Although I kind of doubt it. But
right. So. Core 19 is going to be interesting. We got to see more, of course, before we actually make a judgment call on it. But I'm sure it's going to be fun to play. I'm sure it's going to be interesting to draft. If not, just a little bit more basic. But basic isn't bad, so we'll see.
Sometimes it's nice to not have to think so much about synergy when you're when you're drafting. It's nice to have a break sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to draft a big dumb monster. And just say, hey, this is it. This is a good card.
Even some pros say that core sets have been some of their favorite sets. Because it is just like, more pure and simple Magic, kind of like the old days.
Yeah,
I could definitely see the appeal of that.
So let's stop talking about the immediate future and talk about the immediate past. Dominaria. Feels like we've kind of rushed it out the door, but as we get closer to M19, people are starting to focus less and less on Dominaria. So we can kind of give I wouldn't say our final thoughts and final verdicts on the set, but I think we can explain enough to kind of get a feeling for how we've experienced Dominaria as a whole. So I do want to go and just talk. Mike, I want you to give us your thoughts on Dominaria, how has it impacted Standard, and Nizzahon, I want you to explain your experiences with drafting triple Dominaria. So, Mike, why don't you start first and just discuss your feelings on Dominaria's impact to Standard?
So, I think it definitely improved Standard quite a bit. I mean, we just got out of a long stretch of Kaladesh just being, a super parasitic set. And it still is, everyone would jump on me for saying that because, of course, Kaladesh cards are still some of the most played and most impactful, but I think overall I've definitely enjoyed the meta a lot more since Dominaria came out. Of course I'm a filthy control player, so Teferi was like a dream come true pretty much, even though it's not in the colors I normally like to play. But we saw an end to the Scarab God's reign, which honestly, even though Red Black is like the top deck right now, I think a lot of people are just glad to be out of the Scarab God Winter book wheel term for when a card is just that busted. So in general it's just been a bit of a breath of fresh air, but I think people are starting to get a little leery already. But our community is so reactive to everything, as soon as one card, shows up too many times at the Pro Tour, it's just busted. It's like,
I mean, I can't explain to you what my friend group and their reaction to Chain Whirler. Oh my God, they won't stop talking about it. how it needs an immediate ban and all this stuff.
I mean, he's definitely going to change. He's changing standard like as we speak because
absolutely.
suddenly you can't run X1s basically. But it's not like, I mean, he's a great card. He's a great card for any aggro deck, but he's not just like on the face of it like a busted card. He's just like a card that played really well on all the X1s in the format and had good stats. You know, like that's really all it is, right? Like it's not like it's an incredibly powerful card, I guess is what I'm saying. So it'll change standard, but I don't think it's going to continue to be like the best card in standard. I just think that's what it was at the Pro Tour.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. I think it's there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions to things, to cards that seem to be oppressive, seem to be overpowered, you know? People will complain like if the power level's not high enough and then if too high. I mean, that's the unfortunate place that Wizards finds themselves in. Yeah, and they kind of have to take those complaints with a grain of salt and just stay true to what data and information they've collected, and make decisions based off that rather than community uproar.
Yeah, because it would just be a total shame to have Goblin Chain banned because a lot of Goblins fans out there. That's kind of the argument I've been telling people when they want to say, "Oh, ban Chain Whirler," I'm like, they're clearly seeding Goblins for M19.
Oh yeah, I hope so. I hope if I might start playing Constructed again, if I can go back to the days of the standard where I could play Goblin War Chief and Siege Gang Commander together. So, and Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah, exactly. He fits into that, and like honestly, if you're gonna ban any card, in my opinion, Glorybringer would be the one to ban. Gonna rotate soon, and without Glorybringer, that deck can't close quite as fast as it can right now. So we might actually, I wouldn't be surprised actually if we saw the banning of, you know, like I said, Glorybringer, because it's probably the least not super expensive card, so people might get upset there, and you know, it's gonna rotate in the fall anyways. So like if standard gets totally out of whack, then I could see that happening, but I really don't think it's necessary. Like there's ways to beat that. Like at the RPTQ, I didn't lose a single match to Red Black. I faced it 3 times because I came prepared for it. Now that caused problems when it came time to play the mirror, and all the blue-white decks were like geared towards beating Red Black, and then we just went to time in round 1 because we didn't have any ways to finish each other off. But like you know, having experienced that firsthand, like it's not this unbeatable, you know, insane deck. Like because like the metas of all these events are very specific to the event, and a lot of pros just decided that Red Black was going to be the way to go. That's why you saw it in so many numbers. Not necessarily that it's like the absolute best deck, but in that particular meta of the Pro Tour that weekend, it was because it came in the most numbers, and it put up the most win percent. You gotta factor in years and like people's records and draft and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of factors that go into but I guess real quick, like, you know, I think standard's pretty good, but from my Vorthos side, I love Dominaria. Like characters were all really cool, kind of, you know, met a lot of my expectations for, you know, somebody that didn't play during the OG Weatherlight years. They gave me that, you know, little sense of adventure with the crew and everything. I gotta admit, not huge on the story. I basically watched Seiben's videos. So I stayed up on the story.
Got me a fan.
Yep. I told you, like,
so,
you know, when I started playing Magic again, I watched your videos to get caught up. So, but
well, I appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah, and the art has been incredible. So, sorry.
Oh, agreed. I do love the art of the set. So, just to piggyback on that real quick, I love Dominaria. I think Dominaria Limited. Nizzahon, you're going to talk more about this, but just my thoughts on it. I think it's fantastic. I haven't had this much fun in Limited in a long, long time. Now, that being said, I am a Vorthos boy, and I can say I was a little disappointed in the story overall for Dominaria. So the build-up was really nice. The character development was really nice. But again, it was just a story that was plagued by inconsistencies and a threat that just didn't feel impactful. Most of the time they weren't even talking about Bells and Lock. You know, he would go complete articles, several articles, without even being mentioned, or the Cabal. and then he was killed, very quickly, unceremoniously, just nothing. It just wasn't there. He wasn't an actual threat. So if the story was more about building up the characters of the Weatherlight, they did a really good job. But as for like lasting storytelling, they're not going to make another appearance for a long time. So it really. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would argue that it's kind of nice to take a break and have like a less impactful villain. Like, I hate stories that just have like there's this escalation problem in a lot of stories. You see it in TV shows a lot that go on for too. Is like the villains just have to get more and more powerful, and stakes have to keep getting raised higher and higher. And like that gets a little boring after a while. And like if you look back to the original sets, it was very much a one world problem. Yawgmoth and everything. Dominaria was what was at stake. And before that they had Wrath and everything, and you had like slightly smaller stories that you could tell, and I really enjoyed that. Like I think I like serials more than I do like expanded universes. Obviously Marvel's knocking it out of the park. Like I like those just as much as most people, but I feel like Magic was better told kind of set to set story, which I see a lot of people seem to agree with Ixalan being kind of a little bit more contained. It still had to do with the Nicol Bolas plot, but the adventure.
It wasn't bogged down by the entire Gatewatch. The Gatewatch storyline and them working towards a goal. Yeah. So in terms of what you said about the ever increasing threats, the ever increasing doomness of the threats, I agree. Like, I don't think they should continue to push the bar like that. There's no need to have like, oh, the Eldrazi are threatening the multiverse, we got to take care of them before they eat this plane, and then jump to oh my god, there's something that creates Eldrazi that's oh my god, it's gonna actually literally eat Nicol Bolas, and we gotta stop them because Nicol Bolas is actually keeping the world together or something. Yeah, we don't need to go crazy like that. The point I was trying to make was just that Bells and Luck was he was so rarely mentioned in the story, in the actual articles that were written, that oftentimes you would forget what their actual goal was.
Yeah, and I definitely see your frustration there. Like, they definitely seem to have suffered from like the compression of the story, because they've only got the one set to tell the story. And I kind of wish they would have just left us on a cliffhanger. Would have been kind of neat. Like, have Bells and Luck still be the villain, but maybe he like gets away. Like the classic. I'll get you next time, Weatherlight crew. And like disappears or something. And then we cut over to Ravnica, take care of business there, and then come back. Like, because I really want to come back to the Weatherlight crew.
And that's a great point, actually. So Bells and Luck had to die just to basically progress Liliana Vess's personal story. So I was fine with that. But the way we left the Weatherlight crew with just Joyra smiling and, hey, let's go on an adventure, there was really nothing left there to indicate that we would ever go back to Dominaria for any real reason, outside of like some weird, Phyrexians escaping New Phyrexia kind of thing to go to Dominaria for God knows what reason. That's way out of left field. But so I get what you're saying. It doesn't leave us any real indication to ever go back there. But I mean, honestly, previous stories, like there wasn't a lot of indication to go back to a lot of planes. So
right, they'll find a way.
They always, especially with Dominaria, it's so rich in story. They'll find something. Urza's gonna come back, and we're gonna have some weird moment where where Urza's the villain, and we have to stop him from creating the Ice Age again or something. They'll make something up.
It seemed like people's biggest problem with the ending to Dominaria, I don't know if it's the same for you, but was the fact that like the Planeswalker, the Gatewatch characters just like their development just got dropped, and it might be partly the shock from having different writers, do every story now. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so I do feel like the multiple different writers it does have a significant impact on the way that the story is told. it feels like they're all kind of playing from the same playbook. They're given a template, but they're basically given freedom to do with that as they want. So they have a framework, and then they can basically do anything they want within that frame. At least it feels like to me. I do feel like the development of the Gatewatch themselves, outside of Liliana ending, breaking her contract with her demons, killing her last demon lord, and then I guess the group kind of feeling like, hey, Jace was right. Liliana's, she can't be trusted. Outside of that, it doesn't feel like they develop much, especially because since Teferi joined the Gatewatch, it doesn't feel like he's joined the Gatewatch at all.
Yeah. Oh.
But that was my personal feelings. I think it all has to do with the compression of the storytelling. It moved way too quick. They had to make a lot of sacrifices in storytelling. That led to inconsistencies. It led to just they couldn't develop Teferi's involvement with the Gatewatch and his motivations to join a Gatewatch. All that stuff was kind of put to the back burner. And then we just have Karn and Jaya just saying, nah, but we'll come with you. So I was a little disappointed at the end. It was just, I did like the story overall. I'm not going to say I hated every step of Dominaria. I was just a little let down by the ending. And wow, we got really off track with that tangent. Sorry guys, I'm talking about lore. Nizzahon, I do want to talk quickly about your draft experience, because I think I already know how you fared with the Dominaria draft, but I want to get your own opinions on it.
I think that this format is the best format since Triple Cons of Tarkir. And I think it's going to really be in contention for like top 5 formats ever, like with Rise of Eldrazi, original Lorwyn block, things like that. It's a great format. There's a lot of depth to it. It has a ton of replay value. I'm like 30 drafts into it and still I'm still enjoying every minute of it. I do have to say I enjoy really slow, grindy, limited formats, and that's what this is for the most part. So these are the kind of games I really like. And it was nice to get this after what we had in Ixalan, where you were really not in a good place if you were trying to play a slow, grindy deck. So I've really enjoyed this format. Overall, I think the archetypes are cool. I think what they did with the historic stuff is cool. I think there's a ton of mana fixing that makes splashing easy, which makes things a lot more fun. So I think it's a great limited format. A good indication that a limited format is good to me anyway is that when Vintage Cube comes out on Magic Online, I don't want to play Vintage Cube. I'd rather just play more of the format. That doesn't happen very often, but with this format, I just want to play more Dominaria. I don't want to play any Vintage Cube. I'd rather just keep experiencing this format. I think even pros would tell you that this format has so much depth to it that it's not really solved still. There's so much you can do in the format. There are cards that people misjudged a lot of cards in the format because they seem too slow, and they've turned out to be perfectly playable. And that's a lot of fun to me. And I'm going to be, even though it feels like we're rushing it through the door, I'm going to be drafting it a lot over the next few weeks before Core 2019 comes out to get, as much as I can of this format before we switch formats.
I mean, you can't get any higher of an endorsement than that, honestly. So I'm right there with you, Nizzahon. I love the limited the limited format of Dominaria. It's been a lot of fun. I said this time and time again, it's been one of the most fun limited formats for me personally in a long, long time. So 5 years down the road, if I find myself somehow in the possession of, a box of Dominaria, I would be super, super excited to draft it with some friends.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of format where you're going to look back at it and be excited to draft it. And it's probably the kind that there'll be flashback drafts for in Magic Online because of that, just like Rise of the Eldrazi is, and just like, original Ravnica is, and these other sets that are just so much fun that, like, even when you think about them now, like if you think about Rise of Eldrazi or original Ravnica now, like the idea of drafting those sounds fun to me. If I think about a lot of other formats, that's not really the case. Like, it had its time. I don't really need to see it again. That's how I feel about a lot of sets, but not this one. So it's a great one.
So, Dominaria, sorry to be giving you a premature burial here. You're still here and you're still awesome. But we are going to be focusing on M19 as we get more spoilers. But yeah, this is going to be the end, the closing of the Aether Hub podcast around the Aether Cooler. I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me and joining us tonight. Nizzahon, of course, and Mike from Mythic Tales. If you guys want real quick, you guys can plug your channels.
Go ahead, Nizzahon.
Okay, well, yeah, I mentioned at the beginning, my channel is Nizzahon Magic. If you want limited content, I think it's a good place for you. You get at least 2 draft videos a week. You get a full set review when a set gets spoiled. And if you want to learn more about Magic's history, I do MTG top 10 lists every Friday that are, a lot of people make top 10s just based on opinions, and that's fine. But the top 10s I make are, for the most part, based on research and how cards fared in their time, in their standard environment and modern environment. And I think it's a fun way to sort of look back through Magic's history. So if you think you'd enjoy that and you aren't already a subscriber, you should check out my channel.
For sure, guys. His stuff is amazing. Seriously, I actually learned something from his channel. I thought I couldn't learn anything new about Magic because I'm obviously an expert, but he has taught me so much. Also, I'm being facetious. If that was not obvious. Anyway, Mike, most of the people already know that they can find your work on not only your personal channel, but on the Aether Hub. You have been helping me and partnering with me a lot on the Aether Hub's content. Your animations are amazing, but where could they find, if you had to ask them to follow you or find your stuff somewhere, where would it be?
Definitely on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active. I post updates for my animations on there, and yeah, I think I'm generally decent to follow. I don't post anything too crazy.
Dude, guys, he's being modest. Like he's being modest. Like he posts just progression videos and gifs of his animations, and they're always amazing. So if you want to see some of your favorite cards come to life, you definitely want to follow Mike on Twitter, guys.
Yep, I agree. I mean, if you're watching the video of this, you're seeing all of his in the background.
These are all his, guys. Yeah. I can't name any of it as much as I wish I could, but he's super, super talented. So definitely.
And if you've seen the intro and outro to my channel's videos, he also did those of River Hoopa, which are awesome. And so
still one of my favorites, actually.
Nice. It's one of mine too.
Yeah. So that's gonna do it, guys. So remember, you can also follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/AetherHub. That's where we're filming this kind of live podcast, streaming live. So you can follow us there. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel, and of course, follow us on Twitter. So thanks for joining us, guys, for Around the Aether Cooler.